Hi guys, Charlie here from SG Fitness. Going to make some burgers today, beef burgers. The way we're going to do this is, firstly we're going to fry off some onions. So I've got here some beef dripping. Now the reason that I use beef dripping instead of oil is because it's heat sensitive, which means that the fats are not going to break down when they're heated, which means that they are going to stay as they are. Bodies like natural products because our body was developed naturally as the natural products, and the bodies don't really like manufactured stuff. So you've got beef dripping in a heating pan, and then we are going to chop up some onion. And now the other day I spoke to you guys about how to chop an onion. If you know how to chop an onion, ignore this. If you don't know how to chop an onion, check out the YouTube page. There is a video called How to Chop an Onion and Carrot. You can chop an onion any way you want, but this is the way to cube it and to do it without crying. Although modern onions, it depends. If you go organic, then you're going to need to learn how to chop an onion quickly because you will cry. If you don't go organic, then the pesticides that are used to protect the onion, often they're also developed, I think, to avoid you from crying. So I'm having trouble with this onion now. There we go. So I'm only going to do half an onion. So we cut it lengthways, 3/4 of the way down, and then along, making sure we don't get to the end on one end. Oh, I'm having a battle with this onion. There we go. Get the skin out of the way. As you can hear, the fat is burning away quite nicely. So we're going to chop up the reason we chop up the cook the onion before we make the burgers is just to soften the onions a little bit, and it really makes those burgers just taste delicious when you soften the onion first. It also makes them a little bit easier to form because we're going to form with our hands later on. Okay, so onions into the frying pan. Oh, sounds lovely, doesn't it? Okay, we're just going to cover the onions with the beef dripping. If you are really uncomfortable with using beef dripping or fat in your cooking, I would say get over it. But to start off with, you could probably bake your onion to soften it, so you won't need to put any fat on it. You could just chop it up into thin slices and put it in your oven and bake for a little while. But this is the easiest way to do it. So if you're short on time, this is going to be the easiest way to do it. Okay, I've got some flavourings now. Normally I do add turmeric, but I've run out, so I'm going to try and get as much as I can out of that as possible. Now I'm going to add a little bit of paprika. You'll probably notice, if you watch my videos a lot, my 3 favourite spices are turmeric, paprika and ground ginger. And I'm just going to add all 3 of them into there. Now that will just infuse with the onion as it's cooking and really have a lovely flavour. And we're going to put these spices into the burger mixture as well, but I like to cook them up with the onion also. What I'm also going to add to the onion mixture is some chopped up garlic. So I chopped this up, I prepared this and chopped it up, but you can just get a couple of garlic cloves and chop it up whilst you're cooking the onion. I'd say use loads of garlic, but that's up to you how much garlic you use. Make sure you don't burn the garlic though, because it will give it a bit of a bitter taste. So you want to cook the onions and garlic lightly on a light heat so that they don't burn, and until the onions are kind of see-through, translucent, and make sure that you don't catch the garlic and it burns at all, because it'll give it, it's going to be delicious. So just give it a little bit of a tang. Okay, so we're going to get our minced beef. I've got 1 kilo of minced beef here, and I've done half an onion, so that will be about enough for one another. If you're going to do 2 kilos, like I've got another bag here, or 3 kilos, I would add half an onion per kilo plus 1 egg per kilo. So we've got a kilo of mince. I'm going to add in a few more flavourings. So we've got a little bit of ginger and a little bit more paprika. Not a huge amount, you've got quite enough with the onions that we'll mix in also. We're going to add in some pink Himalayan salt. Once again, it's alkaline forming in the stomach. Sorry, that took a while to remember. And that looks like I'm doing a huge amount, but not a lot comes out from this shaker. So the amount that you want in there is the amount that tastes good to you. If you like salty foods, what I would say is start off with a lot and then wean yourself off over time. As again, I'm not really putting in a huge amount of pepper because this doesn't work that well. For the next video, I'll get a better one. We've got, I get these from the local Whole Foods stores because I like to support my local shops. This is basil and thyme. Just going to pour maybe half a handful in. Ooh. So I've got about that much, half a handful of basil. Yep. And we're going to do the same with thyme. It would have been brilliant had I organised myself before this. Okay, and we've got some thyme, probably about the same amount, half a handful as well. You'll notice with most of my recipes, I don't tend to measure things out because taste denotes how much we put in. Okay, and then we've got the onion, egg. I use a mixture of chicken eggs and duck eggs. I like both of them in the cooking. I've got a duck egg at the moment because my parents have ducks and I get the eggs from them. Just crack one in. Okay, with burgers that you probably have made before or that you might buy in a supermarket or a restaurant, they're made with rusk and breadcrumbs and some other stuff that I can't remember what they are right now. But I don't want to use any of them because we're going to make a very low GI, no carbohydrate burger. And you'll find that the other burgers, they do have essence of carbohydrates in them from the breads and the yeast, etc, etc. So we're going to use flaxseed, once again bought from my local Whole Foods store. And I would say probably about 1 handful, 1 to 2 handfuls, depending on how nutty you like them or how textured you like your burgers. Let's go 1 handful then now. Put that to the side. Then get in your hands in and we're just going to mix them up. The onions have finished cooking and then I've just left them on the side to cool down because I don't really want to mix them up in my hands whilst they're still hot. So when you're mixing them up, have your hand like a claw, put it down, turn it around. And it's brilliant, especially with kids. If you've got kids, this is a great recipe to make with them because they love getting their hands dirty. And you'll be quite surprised at how good the flax seeds are at soaking up the moisture, but also for the flavour and the texture as well. Just got some on the top, don't worry, my top is clean. Okay, just mixing it up, lovely, lovely. Make sure you get in there and you give it a good squeeze. You mix it up thoroughly. You want to get the flavours and the flax seeds and the herbs everywhere in the burger. So you don't want to miss out on anything. Okay, so we've got a lovely mixture then. If I pick it up, I can make a little ball with the mixture. This is not going to be the burger, I can just demonstrate. Make a little ball with the mixture and it keeps its shape. So, okay, now we're going to add the onions. I haven't let my onions cool for very long, so they're still a little bit hot. And as you can see, they've got a lovely colour to them. They're a little bit translucent. Because onions and garlic, I should say. Because they're still hot, I'm going to mix them in to begin with this spoon, so I don't burn my hands. But if you've got time to leave them, then that's great. This recipe takes a little bit of preparation, and so it's ideal to make really when you've got half an hour or an hour spare. We often make these on a Sunday and we'll make a whole batch of them up and then we keep them in the fridge till Thursday, Friday time. They make great lunches if you obviously have a microwave or you've got somewhere to warm them up. Although saying that, my other half, he takes them to work cold and he still loves them. He calls them meatballs, I call them burgers, you call them whatever you want. Okay, so the onions are in and they've cooled a little bit now, so I can mix them in with my hands. And because we added the spices in as they were cooking, they're nice and soft and they've got a lovely, lovely smell to them. Now it's a shame you haven't got smell-o-vision, but it is beautiful. Okay, now I've got a tray in which I'm going to put my burgers on. So to make the burgers, I'm going to get a handful of mixture. And now you can then decide how you want to shape the burgers. So you can make them into a burger shape by pressing them down and spinning them around in your hands. So they're nice and round, and then pressing them down so they've got that lovely little homemade burger feel to them. Or you can make them into balls. So meatballs rather, but big meatballs these are. This one's going to be a big meatball. And then roll them around in your hands just to make them nice and round. There we go. So you can make a nice meatball. So if you love spaghetti and meatballs, or your kids love spaghetti and meatballs, this is a great recipe to have for meatballs. And if you want to make smaller ones, get less in your hand. Right, so I'm on my last burger now, and I've got loads of onions spare. So I'm going to make this a little onion burger surprise. And I've squished all the onions into the middle, and I'm going to wrap the burger around the majority of the onion. There's still going to be some onion kicking around on the outside. Then you don't have to do this with the onion. If you haven't got any spare onion, then that's fine. You know, I had a big onion and I did half an onion for these burgers, so obviously that was too much. What you can do though is, if you've got kids, this is a great idea, is that you can make your burger, put a little bit of cheese in the middle, maybe a big square of cheddar, and then fold the burger around it. And seal the burger so that there's no kind of opening bits, and then cook it like that. And kids love that sort of thing. Okay, so your burgers are all made. As you can see, I've made some burgers, some meatballs, some little meatballs. That makes, so I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, or 8.5 out of a kilo of mince, 1 egg and half an onion, and a handful of flax seeds. So I'm going to cook this now for about 20 to 30 minutes. The best way to check whether it's cooked or not, apart from a thermometer in the middle, which is obviously the best way, once it starts spilling out with juices, then you'll know that it's cooked. The juices that are spilling out is the protein, so you really don't want to cook it so long that you've got loads of beef all over the place. You want to cook it so that it's nice and brown on the outside and it's not surrounded by loads of stuff around the edges. Top tip for when you're clearing up when you've been cooking with the beef dripping that we were cooking with is it's really hard to get off your hands. So rather than using hand soap, I use washing up liquid and don't dilute it. So a puddle of washing up liquid in my hand and really scrub it in. And the liquid will eat away at the fat and it will separate it so you can wash your hands a little bit better. Thank you very much for joining us today.